G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now I've had a lot of response since the marina balcony videos about the whole planking. And although I did an extensive video on the theory of how you did it and how you do all the measuring and calculation preparation, what most of you asked for was actual practical, Harry, let's see how we put the bloody planks on. So in this video I have stripped this bugger down so that we can start planking. And I'm going to show you how to basically do things like this, how to do deck planks and how to get started on preparing and putting in the wood planks for the hull. Does that sound interesting? Oh, I'm sure it is. Okay, roll the music. Now I've already taken off all those horrible planks. They are gone. And I have filed and smoothed the hull frames. And I've also cut back the deck. It was about 1 centimetre too wide at the back here. So I've been fairing the shape. Now if you don't know about that, you'll need to go back and look at the previous video where I explained in detail why we needed to do that. But basically you do need to smooth all your ribs so the curve is there for the planks to sit on. Otherwise they're just going to not fit. So they've all been done, and this has been cut back as per my plan. I have a plan here that I printed out and scaled up to the 150, and then I've used that to basically work out what the shape should be for the hull. To get this shape here, because that was basically sitting out as a rectangle, it was really bulged previously, is I simply laid my pencil on the previous frame and let it scroll around. That gave me the curve to cut on, which will make it nice and round and smooth, because if not you'll have the horrible big jut that they had previously. And you also here I took 1 centimetre off each side. There's 1 centimetre too wide on the transom, so with that sticking out 1 centimetre and with this jutting out with the big thing, it's no wonder their planks all buckled and look like absolute rubbish. So there you go. Whereas here, where I have shaped it correctly, the planks are all nice and smooth. They sit very nicely. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to put some wooden blocks in here. I call that chocking, and I've already started to do that. I've measured them and I've basically cut them out. Now that's not hard. You just take a big piece of balsa wood and you shove it in the gap. It just so happens that the balsa I bought actually fits that perfectly, which is rather lucky. And then you get your pencil and you mark a line, and that's what you're going to cut to. Well, not exactly, because the method that I'm going to use, because I'm not going to put the first layer of thick planks all the way to the stern or all the way to the bow. So I need to add that extra 2 millimeters, which is the width of my planks. So I simply score that line using the pencil, using the ribs here as a guide, and you'll see there, this rib, the rear rib is smaller than the front rib, of course. That's okay. Always cut off the big one then, and you know you're not going to wreck it. So I've added my extra 2 millimeters, and then I've cut to that, and so that's given me that piece. Now I won't bother sanding that perfectly just yet until I get all the planks on the middle. And the reason is I'll need to sand everything at that point. Oh, there's a train. Hello. It's probably Bernard. Hello, Bernard. So that'll go there. Now I've also done, well, I've started doing the tricky one that goes in here. I needed a larger block of balsa, and I had to cut sort of a complex shape. But those shapes aren't that hard to figure out. They look kind of complex, but you can use the shapes around, like again, you can use the ribs to give you an idea where that is, and I use the keel to give you an idea where that line is, and obviously down here I knew that line. So you can draw all those on your block of wood and then cut your piece of wood to suit. One little thing you might have to watch out for on the Bounty, now I'm not sure if you can see in there, but there is a little piece of wood which is part of some of the strengthening for the stern of the ship. So if you're putting your little blocks in, you've got to allow for that, and that's why you'll notice I have a little cutout there. I only had to estimate that. You'll never see it. It just, you need to make sure that that's not interfering. So these are sort of things you just need to basically work out how your block's shaped. Now I used inch by inch dowel, I think 25 millimeter square, and I had to cut all that down, but that didn't give me enough to come out here. So I'll now have to work out what I need to go in there. Now, to make this little piece that's going to fit in here, I'll need to measure up a chunk of balsa here that's going to fit that space. And that's really not that hard to do. The width, well, I had it before at 17, so I know that little gap's 17. So I will have to mark 17 there, and it's going to have to be, well, at the longest, you always go the longest, 22, 23, we'll go 24 just to be sure. So I'll need to basically go in 24, so that's the piece that I need, and it's only going to be 17 wide. 17, there it is. Now I could use a T-square and do a proper job, but honestly this will be filled with glue and blocked in. It won't be that hard to do really at all. I'm just making a piece of wood that supports the planks. The more accurate you can do this, of course, the better. You know, certainly don't be sloppy, but you can sort of basically eyeball it and figure out what it is. So 17, and then that's your 24 across there. If I've done this correctly, those two lines there should join up perfectly. They're not bad, they're pretty close. Now you'll need a fairly stiff saw, like a tenon saw, or this is a tiny one. This is only as big as my hand, it's a little saw. So you get your lines straight, and you'll need that pretty well all the way through working on your wood kit. Right, I have the block cut, and that will fit in there perfectly. So that is going to remedy that, except for one little thing which I'd forgotten. There's just this little section here. It's going to require a little triangle, but I've got some offcut, and I'll be able to make a little piece. Get my fat hand out of the way. I'll be able to use that little bit of offcut to make a little triangle to go in there. But for the moment we need to cut this block down a bit. It's a bit ungainly, and again we can use our previous rib, which has actually got the that will give us basically the curve to cut. So that curve is what I need. Oh look, listen to that. We don't often hear bird song here in the city. Isn't that pretty? There you go. Alright, I'll start cutting this. Now for the moment of truth, does our little piece fit? Yes, it does. That's fine. It's slightly oversized, and that's just what you want, because we've yet to sand all that smooth, and we won't be doing that until we have actually put all the mid planks in. I'll explain more later. But we do need to make a little piece to go here. So using the shapes around as my template, I'm basically putting my block of wood in there, and then just running the pencil on the sides, I've actually ended up with this shape here, and that fits exactly in there for now. Obviously it's all going to need to be glued and then smoothed over later, but as I said, we're not too worried at the moment because we have to put the planks in. I've got the rear blocks here gluing in now, PVA white wood glue, and they won't take that long. Actually the Selleys glue that I use, it'll only take a few hours there and they'll be set, and I could sand if I wanted to, but there's no need to. We won't sand until after we have put the planks on the midship area here. So these planks that we'll be using for the first layer are 2mm thick, and so you can see why we are doing what we're doing. You see that little extra bit that we added on there? That's now going to level out nicely when I put that plank on there. And we'll only have this section here with the wood, and as I said, we'll have the bow as well done with the wood. Now we don't put the wood in the bow now. We don't put that balsa in there and block that up. And the reason being is that we would need to know the exact length of every plank to get it to fit exactly against this rib. And we don't. And they're going to vary slightly because of the curves. So the best way is to let this run over and have nothing in its way. And then once we've got all those planks in, we'll simply get in with a saw and cut that nice and smooth. And then we can put our blocks in nice and firmly. All right, so here's a photo of how I did that, and as you can see, the end result, it becomes very smooth. That then gives us 2mm thick planks all over the hull in the middle, and a balsa bow and a balsa stern. And it's fairly easy and quick to accomplish because you're avoiding all that really tricky stuff of having to put bends into 2mm thick planks, which are hard. It's doable, but it is hard. We will have to do one at the bow, which is unfortunate, and that is the way this bounty is designed. Unfortunately, there is one that runs high at the bow. And you can see on this side, this one, it runs high. There's actually a lip. And so that is unavoidable. We actually have to run one that is high. So we're going to have to bend that. So that's a bit of a pain. But apart from that, there is no need to do any really hard bending. And then when we go to our second layer, we're using 0.5mm thick planks. They're a lot easier to bend. Much easier. Now at the stern, we've got a big hole here, you may notice. There's no need to fill that up. You can if you like. There's no need. Because your planks here are going to be basically pinned in or nailed in there and there. So they'll sit quite happily across that gap, just like these gaps here. The reason we have the blocks is because of the curve, that complex curved shape that we're trying to get the planks over. And by giving it a foundation and working out the shape first, then laying our planks over that means they will form to that shape much better. And we'll have a much more organic and true shape to the stern and the bow of our ship. So that's an easy way to do it. It really makes your life a lot simpler. Okay, well once this is set, we can start laying down some of our planks. Now one of the things that I have done to improve this kit, and I don't know if you can see, there's a little deck in there. Because inside there is just a tiny platform. They don't give you much. It really doesn't even cover the area. But there's a little deck in there. And the previous builders are just, as per the instructions, just put in the piece of timber. And, you know, by the time the stairs and everything, I suppose a lot of it wouldn't be seen. But I like detail. I like things to be done properly. So I planked that. And it's only a quick little job. So again, there's another one that goes in here. And I've pulled that out and I'm going to plank that so that we'll have, again, we'll be able to see the planks through the hole. Even though, look, not a lot will be seen, it's a nice exercise, it's a fun thing to do, and I can show you basically how we would have, or we should have, planked the deck here. Not the way they did it, we'll show you how I will do it. Alright, so let's get on with that. So the first thing to do is to measure up this little piece here, and it's 70mm by, well, they've only got it at about 45. It's actually a 50. If you measure the hole size, it's 51. So we'll do it 50 by 70, do it properly. Do a proper job. And we'll make sure it's nice and square, because this piece is not square by any means. It is way off, way off. All right, so the planks we're going to use are supplied in the kit, which are exactly the same as the ones that we used on the front deck, on the top deck, sorry. Front and back, yes. Okay, these are 5mm wide, which makes the calculation fairly easy. So if we've got a 70mm wide piece here, we're going to need 14 strips, 14 little planks, okay? And they need to be 50 long, so that's just pretty easy to do. Now, what you may notice in here, can you see? My planks actually have ends, and not only that, they have been tarred at the edges. Like the planks on that they've done, well, there's no joints, they're just all continuous. Although I've started penciling in some of the places where they should actually have plank ends. Because there's no way you have a plank that would run that whole length of the ship. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. It's just, trees aren't that big. So planks are basically 4 to 6 meters long, if that, you know, and that's pretty big for these sort of things. And so in scale, you know, basically at 1/50th scale, say it's a 5-meter plank, well, they can't be more than 100mm long, right? Simple math. So 100mm long, this thing is 500mm long. Therefore, there's at least 5 planks. Should be at least 5 planks on every run. But we can go back and score those and fix that sort of. But if you do it properly the first time, it looks so much better. So let's do that. First thing we need to do is we will mark out the center. So we know the center is there. But this is not square, so we'll assume an end is, because I think they have got the frames at least square. And using my cutting mat, I've squared off to there. I'll square off to here. And away we go. and you'll probably find, yeah, 36. Yeah, it's all over the place. Anyhow, we'll plank either side of that, and we'll put 7 planks in. Now, preparing our planks, well, they're going to be pretty easy. We've only got to cut them to basically 50 millimetres or 2 inches, so that's not hard. So we can do that. And this little rule came in a was it Latina artisani thingy kit. I got a lot of odds and ends, a little hammer and a measure and all kinds of things. It was fun, and they've proved to be quite useful actually. Much as I go on about their kits, I don't really like their kits much, but again, with wood kits, it's really how you build them, and any kit, no matter what it is, can come up really well if the person doing it is showing some skill. That's my theory anyway. So what we do is we just run the pencil along the edge of the plank, and that will simulate the tar effect. Easy as that. And that will go there. Fumbling fingers. Alright, so that'll sit there nicely. Now the next one, it's not going to be exactly the same. Let me work over here so you can see what I'm doing. Ah, dear, as usual. Need to be a bloody octopus to do all this shit. Okay, so there's that one. Could use a nice steel rule here. Yes, there we go. Measuring off to there, and we'll cut it nice and straight. Now, halfway along, I'd like to see a plank join. So, at 25 millimetres, which is basically an inch, you people that have to have the old system. Now I'm going to do something here that allows me to bend that plank. There's my mark, and I'm going to just gently score it. If it keeps still. These are so thin, they're quite fiddly. Come on, keep still. Be nice for camera. 2 gentle rubs. Now, if I've done this right, I should now be able to just do that, and then I can simply mark my tar, and then when I straighten it back up again, there you go, and that can be sanded and erased if you've got too much, but at least it's there between the planks as it would be in the real ship. The only reason I do that is it actually makes it easier to do this. So now I've got the beginning of my planking. So I'll just make a whole lot of those and glue them on there, and we'll see how it turns out. We're nearly finished putting all the planks on now. It's just a matter of doing this side. It was very important to get those middle 2 planks in and absolutely perpendicular, and then leave them to set, because everything else will stem from them. And it's the same principle when you do the deck. Same thing applies. If you don't get those first 2 middle planks correctly aligned to centre, then everything you do from there on will be whacked, well, out of whack. But get that right, and then you're fine from there on, because as you can see, planks tend to sort of move around. I know some people super glue them down. I am not a big fan of super glue on a wooden ship, really am not. Super glue has a habit of shearing if it's bumped. So yeah, it'll snap. Super glue is fine in the direction that it's gluing, but sideways, if you hit it on a shear angle, it tends to crack and snap off. and it's how you can remove a super glued part. You know, you can't prise it up the way you glued it, but if you hit it on its side, it'll go crack. The CA polymer just cracks. It's very brittle. So if you've made this wooden ship and then you bang the side of it, a whole chunk of planks could just come off. That's my concern. It's, you know, CA glue is not the ideal medium for this sort of thing. Okay, and get it nice and flat. All right, so I've been a bit wonky around the edges, but that's all right. That's not too much of a problem because basically we can cut those nice and straight. There she is. It's all nice and dry now. There's a bit of gunk on there, but we can sand that off. Let me just quickly sand that off. That's not a trouble. And anyhow, wood decks would be discoloured and scratched. They're not perfect things. But making sure they were nice and level when we put them on. Alright, that's it. And that's the bow, right. So, that's fine. For what this is going to be, that will be fine. I made a little mark when I took it out, make sure I knew which was the end for the bow. So that will go into the little gap there. And then, yep, clicks perfectly. I can feel it clicking into position. And can we see anything? Bring a light over, you can. There you go. All that for that. I know. It's a bit of an indulgence, but I'm happy with that because it's a job that's worth practicing. And my planks are nice and parallel to the ones on the surface. And you know, if you compare the pair, that's how ship's planks should look. Admittedly, they don't always have this 1-2-1-2 arrangement. On a deck like this, they probably staggered in 4s or 5s. So you would actually see a join, a join, a join, a join staggered, very much as I did on the hull. You'll see there's quite a lot of staggering there. So you don't get one there and so on. They stagger along. I did a 4. Every 4th they repeat. So 4 or 5 looks rather nice. Now we can do that to this deck. We'll have to basically get the knife out and score every joint and then go through, and also we might punch the little holes as well for the nails, and that can all be done. It's a lot of work. It's a lot easier if you do it properly the first time. You actually mark your planks as you put them down, and you put the little graphite on for tarring. It's already done for you. Then all you can do is sand it and you're away. So it's actually more work to do it afterwards, but we'll have to do that for this. It's either that or plank over this or rip those planks off. Oh, I can't be bothered. It's too much work. Either way, they've made problems for us, but we can fix that. All right, well, that's enough for this video. We have got the hull faired. We've got some blocking in for the stern. Everything is ready to go, so we can start putting on that first layer of planks. And I've shown you how you would do basically the deck planking there. So we've accomplished that. So in the next video, yeah, we will start the first layer of planks, the thick ones, that'll go on the side here, and they will butt up to our blocked ends. So they're not too hard to put in, but it's still a bit of skill involved, and there's some bending, and we might even get out the heated iron bending tool just to show you what it can do. All right, that'll be soon. That'll be in part 2 of this. But for now, that's it. Comment, like, subscribe, hit me up on Patreon, please. Every single dollar that you put to Patreon helps me make more videos. And also, I give my Patreon supporters special, unique videos that only they get to see. Yes, super squirrel secret stuff, yes. So, go to Patreon. There's a link on this video. I'll go to Patreon and look for Harry Houdini Models. You'll see there's a lot more you can find out about myself and the channel and the things that I can do. All right, that's it. Goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.